joining us again on another episode. I've seen that movie too. And today we're going to be discussing Civil War versus Batman, versus Dawn of Justice. Let me get that title right. Batman versus Superman. My name's Kennon. You guys already know.
My name is Zach.
And this is our guest today. He's actually got his own podcast and everything like that, but I'll let him go ahead and talk about that stuff. So introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Clay. I'm here to pitch you my podcast. My podcast is Why Read the Comics, and basically I kind of do what we're about to do here, and I talk about comic book movies. I do it with my buddy Dan, and we basically talk about how awful a lot of these comic book movies are, like, Howard the Duck and Catwoman. Pretty bad movies.
It's no fun to talk about the good movies.
Yeah, I mean, we do, but it's more fun to talk about bad movies.
Yeah, it's more fun to trash the bad movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you get sick of that. Anyway, you can find that on iTunes. You can find that on Libsyn as well. And I think basically anything that you can find podcasts online. You could also check me out. I have a weekly article called Top of the Stack at don'tforgetatowel.com. It comes out every Wednesday, and it's basically a list of what I'm picking up at the comic shop that week, and me explaining to you why you should buy it too. And I have phenomenal taste, so you should, read that. It's good.
All right, so let's go to the board and figure out which movies we liked.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
Thanks
to our excellent cameraman, Mark.
Of course, guys.
We love you.
So it was a pretty unanimous decision. We all liked
Pretty.
Civil War.
It was entirely
Look,
unanimous.
you don't need to be putting words in my mouth.
I'm not.
All right?
I'm just saying that it's 100% Civil War, and it's not at all Batman versus Superman.
I will say that I didn't have nearly as big of a problem with Batman versus Superman as everybody else did.
Right.
Because we've discussed this before, I'm sort of like the poster child for the casual superhero fan when it comes to these big budget Hollywood releases. Yeah. So I would say that I'm the poster child for the casual fan. I know the very bare minimum about the main points for most of these superheroes. Know nothing about the minor characters. I don't know anything about Black Panther or Aquaman or anything like that. So I would say that I'm a fairly base judge for these kind of movies. And I did prefer Captain America Civil War over Batman v Superman, but I didn't have as much of a problem with it as my fellow colleagues here, who I just know are waiting to just go off as soon as I'm done talking.
Yeah, it's a bad movie.
I'll let you go ahead and say some stuff first.
Yeah, I saw this for the second time, and I've got kind of drunk because the first time I saw it, I was so disappointed because I went into it really expecting a lot because it's Batman and Superman, and they're punching each other. I mean, that's like $1 billion movie. That's like a movie that can't fail, right? And it still manages to kind of suck. And by kind of, I mean it sucks.
There's only 10 minutes of Batman punching Superman in the whole
right,
thing.
And the film just falls apart, right? Like there's this whole image that the Zack Snyder verse is trying to create that's so dark and gritty and just grim, and it's not. It feels false, right? Because Superman is a beacon of hope, right? And in this film, he is far from that. He's an apathetic asshole. He doesn't give a shit about anyone. The only person he cares about is Lois, and everyone else can go die, literally, and they do because he doesn't save them because he's a horrible superhero. I think I said this to you guys earlier before this podcast or before we started filming. The thing that Marvel gets right is that it's more enjoyable. There's more the levity isn't as intense. And I quoted Joss Whedon, and he did Avengers and Avengers 2.
Right.
But back when he was writing comics, he was like, make your comic grim, make it gritty, make it dark, make it morose and all this shit. But throw in a joke. That structuring for comic books and comic book films is so important because it loses all sense of hope. And at the end of the day, these are superheroes. These are people who were created to bring us hope, right? Like, you know, Superman was created in the 30s to fight not to fight Nazis necessarily, but basically to be like a counter to the Nazis.
Right.
And the same with Captain America. These are symbols of hope.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to make them dark and grim and gritty and just like, you know, Batman driving around shooting people, killing people, throwing grenades at people, like brooding and it's false. It's not real.
Well, that's the thing is like Batman versus Superman takes itself too seriously, and then when it comes to the action, it doesn't like have any regard for what these characters are for, because that's what we had talked about earlier as well, is that like because Clay and I have sat down and read about these heroes and played video games and watched movies about them, we have this very rigid idea of who these characters are. When you watch this movie, no respect is put into that, like that the characters don't kill, that the characters are more sympathetic to you know, daily people and stuff like that, because they're there to protect them, and then all of a sudden they're leveling cities and destroying you know, all kinds of
I
things.
hear is just fanboy rage coming out over there. That's
But
all I can hear.
It makes sense. I mean, there have been how many? Like, this is the 8th Batman film, right? So we understand who Batman is, and yes, he's a dark character, but this takes him to a point where he is no longer just a dark character. He's a serial killer. Like, that is taking it too far. That is Zack Snyder looking at a comic book and going, oh, that's a really cool page. I'm going to copy that, put it on my film, but not taking any of the subtext or character development or understanding who that character is or what he stands for at all, and just eliminating that from a film that's supposed to start a franchise. Like, that's what Marvel did so well with Iron Man when that first came out, was they knew that character. They knew what they could do with it. People were like, they're doing fucking Iron Man? When Iron Man came out, like, no one really knew. I mean, tons of people knew the character, but like, it wasn't Batman, Superman, it wasn't Spider-Man, right? It wasn't these characters that are so important to like pop culture. It was Iron Man. And they blew it out of the park because they distilled the essence of that character and they knew what the character was. This is someone who's trying to make their characters into something that they aren't. Is trying to make a dark, grim Superman, a dude who is a god, who flies around and is a beacon of hope and is almost like stupidly happy all the time. And then Batman, who's just...
Right. Well, I mean, we were also talking about how like DC, it feels like they're kind of jumping the gun because Marvel took its time, and there were 8 or 9 movies before Avengers came out. Well, maybe not that many, but they clearly, but they clearly set what the characters are, who they are, like why we care about them, their backstory, so that when Avengers came around, we already knew these characters and we loved them already. And to see them all come together was like I remember the feeling I had when I watched Avengers the first time. Yeah. It was like the best thing. It was one of the best movies. But DC is jumping the gun in that because it's like we've only had one movie about Superman, and technically we've had the Batman movies too, but they don't count because it's set in a different kind of like universe.
Right.
I will say one thing about Civil War was, as being not as much of a casual fan, as being not so much of a casual fan, I haven't seen a lot of like the TV shows and all the stuff that goes with it. So there were a lot of points in Civil War, especially more towards the beginning of the film, where they would talk about this, and this, and I'm like, what?
Well, the Civil War.
What are they talking about?
Like, the TV shows don't fucking
these events,
matter for the
but they
movie.
have like all these
Civil War
different
is based
movies,
on the comic books, right?
and it's
So
like
you're so.
But like I said, I've only been a casual. I've only seen Avengers once. I've only seen Captain America once. I've only seen Iron Man once. I never saw the third Iron Man. I saw the second, but I've never, like, some of the lesser sequels and stuff like that I haven't really seen. I saw Ultron once, and I really didn't care for it all that much. So in the beginning, there were a lot of things where I'm like, wait a minute, you know, I don't really get where a lot of
I think
stuff is
Civil War
coming
does a
from.
good job in that and going like, this is shit that happens. I mean, they literally show it to you, and they don't even show you everything, because you could argue that like the Dark World, they destroy, you know, what is it, Paris? They destroy France, somewhere in France, and
One of the
whatever,
looser
French.
cities.
It doesn't matter. But like they only show you the things that happen in the Captain America movies and the Avengers movies, because those are like the only things that matter to Captain America, right? Because Captain America's in the Avengers movies, and obviously he's in the Captain America movies. So he they only show you those, and they go, okay, so like you guys fucked up here, you fucked up here, you fucked up here, and now we're gonna try and control you because you can't fuck up that many times.
Yeah, but I still think it was too early to do the Civil War timeline, or the Civil War story, I should say. Because, and I know you explained it to me earlier as well about like why Civil War was done. It was because of Dawn of Justice.
Right.
But like Civil War in the comic books at least had all the Marvel characters inside of it. And I know we can't use X-Men because of Fox.
And it's not just that, right? They did an amazing job introducing Spider-Man in this film, right? It's a good intro. I mean, like
It's
you
an
can
unnecessary
ask a
one, but
child.
it's an okay
Ask a
one.
child what they liked about the movie Spider-Man because they did a good job with Spider-Man. And then they introduced Black Panther, who's a huge character in the universe. He's a very important character, and that's like a deep cut. Well, not even a deep cut. It's a pretty well-known character, but it is kind of a deep cut. Like comic book nerds freaked out when they saw it because they're like, "Holy shit! Finally, we get Black Panther."
Can I ask one quick question about that as not being the most in the knowledge fan? When the bad shit breaks out in Civil War and he's like, I need to become Black Panther right now to hunt down Bucky, did he just have that suit and stuff
Yes,
laying
passed down.
around?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
Oh,
a,
so
it's like
there's
a
a
he did.
history
He did
to it.
explain that.
See, and that's one of the
They
things
explain
about...
that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things about
listen.
not being the biggest fan is like, I missed that line, so
It
I don't
wasn't
know
a
what
line. It was like a,
Like he literally, it was a whole
like few
explanation.
lines. It was like
yeah.
a
I must have
couple-
missed that
it's like
whole
a
thing because
scene.
the whole thing I was
We
just
can
sitting
play
there
it back.
thinking,
The Black Panther has been the protector of Wakanda for generations. A mantle passed from warrior to warrior.
and
We
being
do the
like,
editing. Like,
wait a minute.
Play this on loop. Play that
Where'd
scene
that
on
come
loop.
from? I will say that one of the things that was in both of these movies that I thought was kind of weak was I'm kind of between these two movies and some other non-superhero movies that have been doing this sort of same storyline of you need to face the consequences for all the like destruction and stuff that you've done before is like partially because I've seen that in a lot of different other areas and a lot of other franchises, and partially because
He
I
means
just
Power Rangers.
don't care.
He's talking about Power Rangers. That's what he's talking about.
And
right
a few other
Name one.
shows.
now. Name one.
oh, you put on the
Right now.
spotlight.
He's got nothing.
He's talking about
He's got
Power
nothing.
Rangers. He's talking about Power
Yeah.
Rangers.
I've seen.
He said that
I mean,
he didn't.
we
he
could
said,
say
he
Godzilla,
said,
maybe.
I'm testing to this shit. He said that he didn't like the Giant Man scene in Civil War, which
No, I
was
said
awesome.
I didn't say that I didn't
just-
like
let me
it.
finish.
I said
He said he didn't like it that much because he'd already seen it in Power Rangers.
I said that you made the point that that was a funny moment. I'm like, no, it's not.
It was
Ant-Man
pretty funny.
Yeah,
just,
dude, it was
Ant-
pretty
it was
funny.
just grew giant. Like,
it was
if
Paul
he does
Rudd's
that, then he
performance.
does
Paul
that.
Rudd's performance was solid. It was hysterical. He's funny. The whole scene where he gets out of the car and he meets Captain America for the first time, that's hysterical. It's just like some schlubby douchebag who meets Captain America.
His favorite one was, or my favorite one, not his favorite
His
one.
favorite
but-
one.
Yes, his favorite one. No, my favorite one was when he went into Tony's suit and he acted like his conscience.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that
that's-
was the best one of
that's
the whole
funny.
movie.
And that's what I'm saying. And that brings me back to my previous point, which was like, put some jokes in there. Like this film, if you look at the root of this film, it is breaking down the Avengers, this team that we have known to love, or grown to love, should I say. And it's breaking them. It's fracturing the team so they're no longer a team. Fucking two people who have families are in prison after this film. Two people we like.
Oh, yeah.
Like Clint Barton,
Technically-
Hawkeye is in prison. and-
Technically, they're not in prison.
No, they're
Technically
in
they are,
prison.
because we never
they're
see
in
them
a
break
deep
out.
sea prison that like you can't get away from.
The last shot of the movie is all the guards knocked out and him with a
But-
phone saying,
but,
if you need
hey,
us,
hold
call
up.
us. You know
Technically-
exactly what's happening after the
Look,
the
my
screen
point
goes
being,
dark.
you can't just go back to your family after you're running from the government. You can't just be like, oh, hey, honey, I know I'm a fugitive from the law, but I'm just here to see my kids. That's not going to happen, especially if you're, Ant-Man, and you hardly even have custody of your child anyway.
Oh, I forgot
That-
he
that's
had a
why he was-
kid.
See? Boom.
Wasn't that why he was in this movie? Like they said that they were gonna like erase some stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm making something up.
I think he
Like
was,
that was
I
their
think he was,
reasoning.
I think they just wanted to put Paul Rudd.
But I mean, I'm not against it. Like it worked out.
Yeah.
I
So
will say that I thought it was an interesting, at least watching the two films, to note that Captain America sort of ended with the end, quote unquote, of the Avengers, whereas Batman v Superman sort of was the beginning of the
Right.
Justice League. I thought that was at least something
Well, and here's
interesting
the
to
thing.
see while watching.
In reality, when tragedy happens, people change and they become, they splinter. Like if you have an argument with your friend, you splinter. in the Zack Snyderverse, you have an argument with your friend, and suddenly you're best friends because your moms are the same name,
Oh my God, that was.
and you
That made
become
me
the
laugh
Justice League.
so hard when he was, "You're
It was-
killing Martha."
Have you seen the Step Brothers? That's what it was like.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
your mom's name Martha too? You know what I mean? It was just like
What if it was Step Brothers but with like Batman and Superman? Like how awesome would that have been?
not.
Not really.
No, I would have been
Oh,
upset
okay.
still.
Let's
Probably
ignore I
for a
said
That
that.
different
fanboy.
reason.
let's just pass that I said
Stop
that.
calling me a fanboy. All right? I'm passionate about both of these films, right? Like I'm passionate about both of these things, and it's not just because like I don't like Batman and Superman. I don't like how they did it. It's like this film wasn't that good. I watched it with someone who didn't know all that much about the universe, and he's sitting there like, who the fuck was that guy who came and interrupted him when he was having a dream? Like, who was that? I had to
Oh,
explain
yeah.
to him
Oh, yeah.
that they're setting up stuff. It's like the thing with the Marvel Universe, so many people have seen it, and obviously you're not getting all the connections.
No.
Because you didn't. But, like, most people have seen those films. You've set up the connections. So when they do callbacks, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. That was in the Avengers film. That was in Captain America Winter Soldier, whatever. When they do call forwards in Batman vs. Superman, you don't know what the fuck is going on. You're like, was that the Flash? Why the Flash? What the fuck was the Flash doing there?
Yeah.
What just happened?
It, like,
so
killed the
people,
pacing of the
people who
movie.
were like laymen,
Yeah.
you.
I knew that
I'm
that was
pointing
the
at you.
Flash, though,
No,
when he was
right.
moving around and doing crap.
What do you mean when he was moving around? You mean when he popped
The
in and he was like,
footage, yeah, the security cam
no, not
footage.
that. I'm talking about when he pops in through his dream.
Yeah.
Oh,
in the very
that's
beginning.
What that was.
See? He doesn't know. And that's because you don't set up a cohesive universe that people understand. You just throw a bunch of fucking shit at the screen and
I
you
just
go like,
assumed because it was a Zack Snyder movie, shit was happening.
Yeah.
That didn't make
Here's
any
what you
sense
do.
because it wasn't going to
you
make
throw
sense.
shit at the screen and you go, fan service, fan service, fan service. Meanwhile, Marvel's going, oh, hey, you know what the fans are really like? What if we let Black Panther this movie? Like, what if we give, like, genuine, like, references to stuff? What if we reference, and this is obviously not the film we watch, but in Winter Soldier, they reference Doctor Strange. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
they
There's
did.
fan service in that sets up.
You
and
need
that,
to
like,
listen, like, and watch and
Yeah,
stuff
but
like
I don't
that.
know who Doctor Strange
That's
is.
fine.
You've seen the
That was fan
trailers.
service. That was fan service for us.
Anyways,
but that's like,
yeah.
that's like, a lot of the fan service is calling back, right? It's like, hey, you remember that stuff that happened? And like, there's some snippets of stuff thrown in there for the fans, but it's not core to the film, right? You could be like, you could watch the film, not notice that they say Stephen Strange, and it's just some name, and you're like, okay, cool. It's not like a core like, what about that wizard dude? It's like, what about this guy we're watching? You know what I mean? It's a fan service. Meanwhile, that is like, who the fuck was the dude who just like popped into the screen, was like glowing fucking blue,
Oh, yeah.
and like, don't trust him. Oh,
Everything
and
you're
like,
thinking is right.
yeah,
like, you know.
and it's like, what is that context for that?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's going on, and anyone who doesn't know the comics wouldn't understand that, and that's a part of the film that makes people confused. Like, there was originally a scene, and it was in the Ultimate Edition, where they show a character that references the future, right? Like Darkseid, they have Steppenwolf in there. That was a deep cut for me, and I know the comics.
Right.
I was like, Steppenwolf, like for real? They put him in this movie? You know what I mean? It was so. I guarantee you.
The
don't know who
only
fuck you're talking about.
Steppenwolf I know is that's
Oh,
the name of the
God.
guy who sang that song "Born to Be Wild." That's the name of the
All
guy
right,
that
hang
sang
on.
that song "Born
I'm
to Be Wild."
going to have to cut it off there because we're over the time. So we can definitely discuss more of this if this is something you guys are interested in, and I'd love to bring Clay back. He's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to comics. So if you guys want to watch more of this stuff, let us know. We're more than happy to bring Clay back on.
I can talk a lot about some comic
He
books.
can.
I
We
have a lot
have
of
tested that
feelings
theory
in
out.
my heart.
But anyway, so I'm going to conclude it there. And so thank you guys for watching. Please watch any of our previous episodes. Again, if you want to go ahead and plug your stuff again.
Why Read the Comics? Check it out on iTunes. And then go to Don't Forget a Towel every Wednesday. I have my weekly article, Top of the Stack. And yeah, like I said before, I tell you what comics to buy because I'm the only one you should listen to.
Oh, this has been another episode of I've Seen That Movie Too. I'm Zach.
I'm Kennon.
And I'm Clay.
See you next time.
See ya.